Alright guys, we're back. What I thought was going to be a easy video showing a front brake caliper replacement on a Pontiac G6 turned it to be a rear caliper replacement. All of the other calipers when I tested them, like I showed you earlier, they worked fine. There was no sign of wear, uneven wear on either side. So, and then plus the calipers all went back in like they're supposed to. So when I got to the back one thing I did notice, there was you see back in this part here, the angle I've got, you can't really see it that well, but there's brake fluid down in this part here. So the back of that caliper was leaking. That's what failed it on the inspection. So, been to the parts store. Well, I don't buy parts until I know exactly what I have to buy. I started to go buy a front left brake caliper for this because I was so certain that was what it was going to be. But as you see now, we're on the back left. So I've got a brand new brake caliper here. Ta-da. The main thing is when you install new calipers, the bleeder has to be on the top side. It doesn't. If you had this on in another application and it looked like this, like on the other side, that bleeder is not going to work right because it has to fill all the way up with brake fluid, and then when you crack that, that's how you get the air out of it. If it's on the bottom, you're not going to be able to get the top part of it filled. New banjo bolt on this one. So I've never worked on this style before, so this has been a little bit of a learning process for me, so that's fine. The main thing is this is the parking brake cable is going to be for me to get that back where it's supposed to be there. Except I've not done it before. I'll try to figure that out, and when I come back I'm going to show you what I worked out. Alright, so this is what the thing is this spring here prevents these two pieces from going together like that. I guess when you set the parking brake, it's going to pull that, and then when you release the parking brake, that spring is what actually pops it back out. What I figured out here, if you just get this enough of a pull, you can get that back where it belongs back there. And there it is, just like that. Alright. Next step is going to just be to, well, first I wanted to check this style that GM has here. Well, they got the whole bracket and everything that I don't need, but I guess I could put that on. I just realized that. Got new sliders and everything. So let me go ahead. Let me pull this old bracket off, and I'll come back. This is just mainly, you've got two bolts here, one here, one here. Zip them out, take that out. I'll come back. Well, I'll come back after I get this off, and I'll show you the process of reinstalling. It's just going to be backwards. Just pulling these two bolts off. All right, we're back now. I'm going to go ahead and get that caliper on. Took a little bit of doing. What I should have done is just went ahead and taken the caliper off of the bracket. I'm going to have to take it back apart anyway to put the brake, sorry, I almost said shoe again, to put the pads back in. But it'll be easier to work on it once I get these screws started, so now I can go ahead and pull those off. Also, get you a new one. You want to check and make sure that these slider pins are lubricated properly. All right, and there we go. You may ask, why didn't I just take that off before I put the bracket on? I'm going to let this hang. The hose is not connected. This is just a cable. It's not going to be an issue. When you put the bracket in, at least get it started, and then you go to crack those slider pin bolts loose. It's going to make it a lot easier for you. So let me get back in here. I'm going to tighten up the bracket. Unfortunately, the way that thing is situated in there, I can't use any kind of ratchet. It has to be a box end wrench. Torque spec. There we go. I'll get the other one tightened up, and I'll come back and we'll finish this up. We got that bracket on tight. Filling these sliders, they are lubricated sufficiently. We're not going to worry about taking those out and checking it. I put my new hardware on that came with this. There we go. I don't know what that was about. Can't see very good, so probably my fault. Okay, we got the hardware's back on now. We checked our slider pins. They all move really well. Got our parking brake cable reattached. When I took that off, I just took the spring off of the old one and allowed that to be able to pull forward. Where the other one was leaking at, it was leaking right behind this little piece of rubber right here. And that failed it on the inspection, I guess. But we'll get the shoes onto the hardware now. I didn't bother to get new shoes. There's nothing wrong with these. I didn't get a new rotor. This is a economy job for a family member, and this is going to be just fine. It's the back brakes. If it was the front brakes, I probably would have went whole hog on it. But we're just trying to get it past inspection one more year. There we go. Get that ready. Ready to put this back on. Oh, one more thing. The GM, I know a lot of companies, I guess, are the same. These type of calipers on the back, you don't actually push those back in. They spin back in. They have a tool that's got two prongs on it that you put on there, and it'll spin it. I found also if you're gentle enough, just a regular pair of pliers, and make sure you don't grab the rubber and don't go hog wild on it because you don't want to scuff anything. But if you just turn that, but this doesn't already turn all the way in, but you can actually turn that with a pair of pliers. So you don't absolutely have to have that tool. Get one started here. We're about home free. All right. 14s. Again, that cable gets in the way. I can't use a ratchet on the top one. I got a little short extension for it. It just wasn't going to happen. So we're just doing it old school. And I'm holding this while I tighten. Okay, once again, we're going to torque the spec. These do not go gorilla on these. They don't have to be super hard tight. Okay, we're going to reattach our cable now, our hose brake line to here, and we're going to crack this bleeder open. We're going to let it gravity feed. I'm going to pull the hood up, and I'm going to check the master cylinder. As that's happening, I've got some .3 to put in it to make sure that there's enough in the system. If you let air start getting in on that end of the system, it's going to be a lot harder to bleed this out, take a little longer. What I do is when I took that off, I crimped it with this type of vice grip here. I've got a new banjo bolt here. So get rid of that one. Here's my new one. It's got crushed washers on either side. Make sure you got one on each side. Don't put them back on both together. It's going to look like that. And then you're going to drop one on the floor. Pick it back up. Make sure I didn't pick up the old one. There was two of them. I think I did pick up the old one. Sure did. No, that's the old one. All right. Okay, and another thing, when you go to take this off, leave the caliper on, because it's hard to, if the caliper's loose and you're holding it in your hand, it's hard to crack that loose when you do that. All right. I believe that was a 11 millimeter. Yep. Everything straight, and then get the old crusher-rooney. See, that's what I'm talking about. You got to put that much kind of pressure on it to make sure those crush washers work right. So, so that way you want everything assembled. That'd be kind of like the last thing you do. All right, let me crack that bleeder open. If I have the right size here, I'll probably do it. Nope, I'll be right back with the right size. Well, this is always the right size. I don't use crescent wrenches too often, but they do come in handy. Alright, we got her loose. Alright, ready to release it and watch. Now that's the waiting game. I'm going to let the system fill up and it starts bleeding out here. While that's happening, I'm going to go up and check the front, make sure I've got enough in the master cylinder. Alright, that took a second, but I've got my fluids now coming through the bleeder. We'll close that off. Oddly enough, the new caliper didn't come with a rubber bleeder cap. And I turned the other one in for the core. I gave them my rubber bleeder cap, so I guess we're just going to have to make do without. I should just go get the right wrench. I don't know why I'm being stubborn about it, but there, that's going to be good enough. All right. All right, just to give the once over, make sure nothing's leaking anywhere. I will come back and bleed the brake system properly. I know I've seen real mechanics, not just some garage guy like me. They don't bother even bleed. Once they get that to bleed there from gravity, they say that the system pretty much takes care of itself. It just regular driving back and forth and using the brakes will actually get all the air back out of it. It filters its way back up to the master cylinder. I did my truck not too long ago, the exact same thing. I haven't had any issues with it. Okay, make sure everything spins good here. So just to double check everything, I got my banjo bolt back on tight. I've got my parking brake reset. I cranked down on the brackets that are in the back. Those are the main ones that they do have to be fairly tight. So I made sure I cranked down on both of those fairly well. I've got my slider pins tightened back up, not super tight, just tight enough. My pads are in, my hardware's on, moving back and forth just fine. So I'm going to get the tire back on. We're going to take it down the road. We're going to make sure everything works right, and my mother-in-law can get this thing inspected. All right, just finished with the test drive. Everything seems to be working just fine with that. Main thing is when you first get back in your car after you've had the brakes apart or the pistons on the calipers pushed in, stop, pump the brakes before you go anywhere. I've had that happen once or twice. Heading down the driveway, forgot to pump the brakes up and go hit the brakes, and you get that good pucker when the car doesn't do anything at all to slow down. But this one also, I don't know exactly the procedure for setting the emergency brake. After I pumped the brakes up, I just worked the handle a couple times, and then I left it in gear and set the emergency brake, and it seemed to work just fine. And also, I went back, made sure since when you open the system like that and you lose brake fluid, you want to make sure that you put more back in the master cylinder, that you're not going to be low there. So I did do that. Yep, that's my first rodeo with a Pontiac. Probably won't be my last. He's had this car a little while now. It's probably going to start having some things go bad with it. But at any rate, if you like what you've been seeing, please be sure to like and subscribe. Leave me a comment down below. You see something I did wrong, something you would have done better, I'm glad to hear it. At any rate, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey, chicken.